Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, so yesterday we went half through the first half of this little watered down version of the Barzakh course. I'll just go over what we went through yesterday very quickly. First, we talked about the essence of death itself, how we can always look at it as an end to everything, or we can look at it as rebirth. Based on our ahadith and the way they paint the picture for us, the only way to make it to actual freedom, we have to shed this material body. There's no other choice. The same way for us to come into this life and enjoy all the stuff this life has to offer us, for that we had to eventually be born from our mothers and come out mommy's tummy. The same way we have to be reborn again for akhirah or for barzakh, or else it's all limitation, it's all hardship, it's all restriction. And when we say this life is all hardship and restriction, not just when you get sick, not when you lose something or you lose a loved one. No. Just the fact that we have to eat, drink, survive, go to the bathroom after we eat, all that kind of stuff, that's all hardship, trust me. Okay? The angels are looking at us from above and feeling sorry for us. They're like, man, these people, how do they do it? Right? For us to get out of this, we have to shed that skin. And for that skin, what I mean by it is that material body. There's no other way around it. So if you look at it like this, the only way to get to the destination where the good stuff is actually happening, if death, that's what it is, then there is a potential here for us to actually not hate it so much and dislike it. That was one thing we discussed. We discussed the final moments and how it's not the case that everyone, no matter how good they were, are going to suffer upon death and those final moments. No. The worst that happens to a mu'min based on our hadiths that we went through is that they might grieve and wail, and be upset, as the hadith said. But then Malak al-Maut will lift the veils from this person's eyes and show them that the Holy Prophet is there, that the Imams are there waiting. And so this person slowly becomes more accepting of death, which is interesting. We'll have a hadith later as well that we'll get into, that Malakul Maut, why should he care about us being ready or not? I thought it was time to go, it's time to go. So that itself shows how much respect the mu'min has. We also looked at our Quranic verses. You know that book called the Quran? Yeah, there's this book called the Quran. In there, the verses speak about how those who die tayyibin, they die with, in purity. Which means that they tried their best to obey Allah in this life. These people, the angels tell them, Salamun alaykum udkhulul jannah, and these kinds of things are said to this person upon death, upon taking the soul. Salamun alaykum means there's nothing for you to worry about. Then why is it that we've been taught all our lives that no matter what, when death comes, we are all going to suffer, with 3 R's at the end? Why? Yeah. So this idea doesn't really read with Quranic verses. This doesn't read with ahadith that we have. And yes, it all is related to our actions and how good we were here. Someone might say, are you telling me I have to be ma'soom? No, you don't have to be ma'soom, but try your best. If you fail, get back up on your feet. We always say this. We always talk about this. These people, when they die, it's not going to be hard, inshallah. Why is it that if what all that matters is how good or bad we were when we're leaving this dunya, then why is it that we see some righteous people have hard deaths and some evil people have not so hard deaths? For example, Hitler, if it's true that he committed suicide at the end of his life, when they almost had him, what did he do? They say he committed suicide. How? He probably shot himself in the head or something, right? That's not suffering. 1 second you're alive, the next second you're dead, finished. You don't feel any pain. Some people might ask, well, if righteousness is what matters for us to have an easy death, he also had an easy death. The answer was, first of all, that depends on what your definition of death is. You don't see when the angel's actually taking his soul out what's going on with this person, first of all. Second of all, sometimes there are some evil people out there who will have easy deaths, the way we see it. It might seem easy. Why? Because they have some good that they've done in this life. Allah wants to make sure He pays them back here so they don't have anything to say in Yawmul Qiyamah. Right? And finally, last night, we ended with this theological discussion of, will the final repentance in those final moments, will it be of any good and any avail for this person? So it's not possible. Even if Allah wanted, as if, It's not possible. Why? Because the whole point of us coming into this life is that it is proven to us that Allah is there, that the Quran is to be followed, for example, the prophets are to be followed. And they have a promise that they come to us with. What is that promise? A promise of Jannah or Jahannam. So I haven't seen Jannah, I haven't seen Jahannam, but I know it's coming. That's the whole test right there. Am I going to do what I need to do, although I'm going to get the results later? Or am I going to stick to the now? Am I going to listen to Nike and just do it? No? No, not necessarily. Yeah? I'm going to wait for the akhirah to come and I'm going to invest in my akhirah. That's the whole test. So if the veils are being lifted when I'm dying, and then I'm like, oh, darn, it looks like it's for real. You know? Oh, it's that bad. Well, the Quran had told you it's that bad. But you hadn't seen it. But now that you see it, like, oh no, I don't think I want to go through that. Oh, astaghfirullah. That was too bad. Because it's not gonna contribute to your growth, this iman. Iman contributes to your growth, yeah, when it's done the way it was supposed to be done at the right time. And that's before veils were lifted. Or else, if that's gonna work, and when the veils are lifted, we have an opportunity to fix everything up. Brothers and sisters, we didn't need to come to this life to begin with. If I have a chance after the veils are lifted in those last moments, doesn't make sense for me for Allah to bring us into this life in the first place. Might as well lift the veils from the beginning instead of letting all this bloodshed happen, all these problems on this planet happen, and then He gives us a chance. Well, why not avoid all of that and just show us everything and remove the veils from the beginning? And if you're going to remove the veils from the beginning, then don't even bring us here. Just take us straight to Jannah. Yeah, some people, that's how lazy they can get when they want something good. There's every country has their culture, and in every country there are certain cities that people are from that if you tell them you're from that city, they'll know you for something specific. Oh, they'll laugh. Oh, you're from that city, haha, because the people of that city aren't very smart. Anyway, there's some of those in Iran as well, and we have some of those cities, and there's some clips that come out sometimes. Others mocking people of that city, whatever. I want to give you this example. There are some people, after their salat, they say, oh Allah, you know what I want, make it happen. That's how lazy they are. Well, there's a couple of things you want, ask for it. That was the point of dua, that you speak to Allah. Not that after your salah is over, you're like, oh Allah, there's things I want, you know what they are, make it happen. Khalas. I mean, it's better than nothing, but still, that's how lazy some people can get. Yeah? So if Allah was going to lift the veils in the end, He could have just lifted them in the beginning. And if He was going to lift them in the beginning, He didn't have to even bring us here to begin with. All right? So that's something to think about. Now, moving on to today's discussion. Let's start with the salawat, please. The angel of death, how terrifying is he? Well, since pop culture is always right, let's see what they say. What does he look like? He's dressed in black, the angel of death. And he's holding a scythe, right? And you can't see his face, which makes it even scarier. It's a hoodie. And usually you see him in the special nights of Halloween. And so this is the one that comes to take your soul. Why? Because death is so bad, anything that's going to lead to death is also probably bad. And so the angel of death must be bad. If the grave is a dark place, then the grim reaper should also be dark, scary, all that kind of stuff. Yeah? But of course, we all know that's not the case. We have to understand, at the end of the day, this is one of the greatest angels of Allah, that Allah exercises the quality of Al-Mumit through him. Al-Mumit meaning the one who takes the souls. And so if Allah is exercising this grand action of imatah and taking life through him, it shows not just a normal angel, one of the special angels of Allah. And if they are an angel, angels, as you all know, they're not even material beings to begin with. So what does that mean? That means they don't have a specific form all the time necessarily. And if that's the case, then we can understand why for some people Malakul Maut is good looking, for others he's very bad looking. Why? Because he doesn't even have a form of his own. And this is where scholars, I'm skipping the explanations and reasoning for these things, just giving you the results, the fruit of their discussions. They say that, yes, if you were bad, then angel of death is going to also be bad. He's a reflection of you. Brothers and sisters, we got to understand you are what you do. Not you are what you eat. You are what you do. Everything on the other side is going to be a reflection of me. What I did here, my actions. What Malakul Maut looks like. What the question in the grave is going to be like. What Jannah looks like. All of that is a result of me, what I've done, my actions. We got to understand that. We fear Allah. We say we have to have fear of Allah. But in reality, we have to fear our own actions. We talked about this last night. One of the questions that was asked in the end of the session. Are we getting punished for what we did in this life? Or is the punishment the exact thing that we did in this life of bad? Yeah, and the answer was number 2. What we do here is we see the same thing in another lens and another light over there. All right, so I don't want to go back to that. Anyway, angel of death is no exception to this rule. He is also going to be, the way he is a result of my own actions. So when I look at him like, oh my God, you ugly. In reality, it's like I'm looking in a mirror and I'm looking at myself and saying that. You get me? And so here, these hadiths that we're going to get into, because we have no other way. It says here, hadiths can only tell us what he looks like. Why? Because you can't put him under a microscope. You can only understand things beyond the grave through the hadith that tell us and disclose to us some of the things that happen on the other side. Or else we have no other access to knowing what's going on. All right, so we have to see what these hadiths say. I have about 4 or 5 hadith here I want to share with you. Before I get into it, there's a story by Ayatollah Sayyid Ahmad Khan Sari, his name is. He's one of my heroes. He's in Qom, he's buried next to Allama Tabatabai. And he's known for his purity. And it's a very, very famous story. Those of you who know Farsi, you can just Google it. The story will come up. But we would hear this back in the day as well, that Ayatollah Khan Sari was one of the ones who had seen the angel of death. And then he had said that, hey, he's pretty good looking actually. Angel of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm going to share some of these hadith with you for the good side of him and the bad side of him. And then we can just ball up that understanding of Malakul Maut, that he's a nasty, ugly, fearful creature. Ball it up, toss it out. And we're going to have our own perspective coming from our sources. Not no Halloween stuff. All right. So the first hadith I want to share with you, that it says Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq, they both said that Prophet Ibrahim, and it's interesting, these stories that I'm going to share with you, most of them have to do with Prophet Ibrahim, entered his home and found someone there with the most beautiful of faces he had never seen before. Yeah, these are famous hadiths. He asked, who are you? And one of the hadiths said that he had some ghira, like, hey, what's a good-looking guy doing in my house? Yeah, the hadith actually said that. Who are you? And he's like putting his still like, who are you? We're gonna have to fight this one out. He answered, I'm Malakul Maut. And Prophet Ibrahim said, Subhanallah, who wouldn't want to be close to you or to meet you if this is what you look like? So you tell me, who are we gonna follow? Prophet Ibrahim or other people? Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam in another hadith, he says, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took Prophet Ibrahim as his Khalil, his friend, because Prophet Ibrahim had different stages in his life. One of the verses of the Quran says that Allah ittakhad Allah Ibrahim Khalila. Allah took him as his friend. Yeah. Another part, he says, Inni ja'aluka linnasi imama. So these are different stages Prophet Ibrahim went through, and the Quran tells us the story of these different stages that he put behind him. Here it says when Prophet Ibrahim was taken as his Khalil, the angel of death came to him with the glad tidings. Oh, so the angel of death can sometimes have good news too, of being chosen. But he came in the form of a beautiful youth wearing 2 white garments. And it says here, now this is interesting, I don't have the Arabic, but it's there, it's in the hadith. This is kind of funny. It says that, my interpretation of it is probably a little funny. It says, he was so fresh that it was as if water and oil was dripping from his head. So I call it the slick look. Okay? That, it's that look that's very attractive, he puts his hair back after he came out of the swimming pool, that kind of thing, the slick look. It says oil and water as if was dripping from his head. And he's a youth wearing 2 white garments. Prophet Ibrahim meets Malakul Maut like this. The Holy Prophet ﷺ was asked, how does the angel of death take the life of the believer? To which he replied, verily, when the time of death arrives, and this is a crazy one, man. the angel of death stands next to the believer like a humble slave. Angel of death? Like a humble slave in my presence? Look at how much respect a mu'min has in the eyes of Allah. It says, like a humble slave in the presence of his master. So remember, a few minutes ago we were talking about how the angel of death, it should be the case that he cares less if you're ready or not to go. Right? Yet, it's as if he's making sure you are slowly ushered into death. You can make your way in without too much fear. Look around you, look at the Prophet, look at the A'immah around you, and slowly the mu'min himself or herself decides and accepts this reality. So the question there is, why would the angel of death care? Isn't he supposed to be mean? No, to the believer, according to this hadith, it's like he comes like the slave in the presence of the master. These are things that usually we don't hear. Like, oh, Malakul Maut can be good then. It says Prophet Ibrahim met an angel. This is the most famous one. You've probably heard this one. Met an angel and asked him who he was, to which he replied, the angel of death. Once again, you see it's Prophet Ibrahim in these stories. He asked him if he could show him what he looks like when he takes the soul of a believer. And the angel agreed to do so. He told Prophet Ibrahim to look away for a moment, and he did. I mean, even Superman, he asked for a phone booth, right? Prophet Ibrahim, don't see how I do it. Look away for a second, and then look back. Prophet looks away, looks back. When he looked back, the angel was a beautiful youth with beautiful clothing, beautiful features, smelling very nice. He said to the angel, "O angel of death, if one was only to see you like this, the beauty of you, that you have, it would be enough for them, of the pleasures of Jannah." So then Prophet Ibrahim says, "Can I see what you look like when you take the soul of the evil ones?" So you see right here, the distinction is made. There's a distinction made. For mu'mineen, it looks like that. Brothers and sisters, if that's how it starts, as I said last night, angel of death isn't going to fool us. Come to a believer with a nice appearance, and then when we say, okay, I'm ready to go, he's like, yes, I got you, now I'm going to beat you up. That's not how it works. If this is the start, the end is going to be better probably. As it goes on, it's going to be better probably. Yes, there might be one or two more uncomfortable moments that a person might have, we'll get to. Other than that, it's about it really. All right. So he asked the angel, I want to see what you look like when you take the soul of the evil ones. So the angel tells him, you can't bear it, don't do this. Yet he insists. And so the angel says, look away once again. He looks away, looks back. He saw a dark man with hair standing up, foul-smelling, clad in black clothing, with fire and smoke coming out of his nostrils and mouth. And so Prophet Ibrahim fainted, the hadith says. And after he regained his conscience, the angel of death had returned to his normal state. And the Prophet told him, if all the evil one goes through is seeing you like this, that's enough adab for them. Sometimes we get angry at, husband or wife. That's, you're one of our relatives, he would tell his wife, you are such an angel. And we're like, oh wow, like our uncle, like he's a very good man of the family. He's telling his wife that his wife's an angel. And then he would complete his sentence. You're such an angel of death. So here it says, if this is all you see, if this is all what the evil one sees and goes through, seeing you like this is enough for them of adab. That's big. So the angel of death can be not a pleasant, when we look at him, it can be a pleasant scene that we see. It can sometimes be the exact opposite. It all depends on our actions again. Actions in this life. All right? Death means you don't come back. So if you had a near-death experience, I know they saw. So some people, they say they saw a very beautiful thing, person. Some will call him Jesus, some will call him Imam Ali. Yeah? Depends on your faith, seriously, like near-death experiences, they're not all Muslims, but then they say we saw something beautiful. But see, so this person had a death, but they had a good experience. So what's going on? Well, first of all, we talked about, people of other faiths last night as well. Someone asked this question. People of other faiths, what's going to happen to them? That's between them and Allah. Who says that every non-Muslim goes to hell? Allama Tabatabai, he makes this point clear that that's not the case. But anyway, Some people will be confused. Well, how come they're having a good experience? We thought death was going to be hard. Well, death is going to be hard if you're not going to come back. We call it death when you don't come back. So if you do come back, it was a near-death experience. The body or the soul will experience certain things. But who says that it was going to always be like that? No. Maybe I think we have hadith for this as well, that when you die, man yamut yarani or yarani, that Imam Ali says, whoever dies will see me. So one of these scholars, once he was explaining, he said, it means that when you die, Allah's going to show you what you could have become as if. And you're like, wow. But then He shows you what you actually became. You're like, oh my God, no. That part maybe doesn't happen in near-death experiences, right? Because near-death experiences are not death. If Allah knows you're not going to come back, then He's going to show you everything. Yeah. So for us, it's not about the heart necessarily. It's about whether the soul is there or not. So if the heart goes, it goes straight line, but then they bring them back, well, that apparently shows that there was still a link between the soul and the body. It wasn't a total disconnection. Yeah, the heart stopped, but the soul hasn't been collected yet. The problem with us is that we think it's the brain and the heart, that's it, right? But from a metaphysical perspective, it's all about the soul. Did the soul get disconnected in a way that it's not going to come back? That's death. If not, it's not death. But don't even go there, guys. Go here. Go say, hey, during Prophet Isa's time, and it's Christmas, by the way. Prophet Isa's time, he would bring back from the dead. So what's that all about? That's a person whose soul had Uhyi al-Mauta, or what's the verse? It says that I bring back from the dead. So that is a place that their soul had actually detached. Yeah, so Allah can always do certain things. Yeah, there's always exceptions to the rules out there. But the rule is this, what we're talking about right now, for a normal person. Okay. Let's move on to the barzakh now. This is something that some people don't know about. Some people, verses of the Quran even say this, just like the verse we had yesterday. الَّذِينَ تَتَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ طَيِّبِينَ, was it? Yeah? يَقُولُونَ لَهُمْ سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ أُدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةِ, enter Jannah. And so when we see that, we're like, okay, Jannah means the heaven of the hereafter. But that's not the case. Yes, the term Jannah is used. Sometimes the term Nar is used. Yeah? But it's talking about the barzakh. It's not talking about Yawmul Qiyamah. Brothers and sisters, we are on a journey. And this journey has different levels of existence that we go through. The lowest level of existence is the material realm that we're in. But slowly we grow out of it. And we're reborn into the barzakh. And after the barzakh, we are reborn into akhirah and Yawmul Qiyamah. It's just growth upon growth upon growth. Right? We have to go through these stages to reach that point that Allah wants us to reach. And that's why some say that the verse of the Quran is talking about these stages when it says, Ya ayyuhal insan, innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadhan famulaqih. You are laboring towards your Lord laboriously. Yeah? It's not an easy journey at the end of the day. Just the fact that we're alive here, we talked about this yesterday. It's hard. It's not easy to live in this life. Yeah? And so this is the first part. I mean, there's steps and steps that we're going to be taking. Barzakh is one of those steps where we shed off the material body. It's also referred to as the alam al-mithal. And we will still have bodies, but they're called barzakhi bodies. Now, philosophy talks about this. Hadith also talk about this. Okay? I want to share with you some of these ahadith or verses of the Quran. Before I actually talk about the bodies, is there a verse in the Quran that actually mentions barzakh? Yes, there is. There are some that imply it, and there are some that directly mention it. Some meaning one. And that is Surah, I think, Mu'minun, verse 100, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. It says, when death comes to one of them, he says, my Lord, Rabbi rji'un, send me back, oh Allah. Like now the veils have gone inside. I'm like, oh my God, one salawat would get me all this. I could have been banking right now, right? Guys, like if you park your car and you're like walking to like the store and there's like a 30-second walk. 30 seconds, you can turn that into cash. Yes, time is money. Yeah, ukhrawi money, okay? It can be ukhrawi money. You can turn it into that. Make the most of our time. Like I'm sitting in the bus, on the train or something. I don't know, do we do trains anymore? I don't know. So yeah, like you make the most of the time. Like why not? Just at least one or two salawat, something like that. So when this person sees what's happening? He says, take me back. I could invest more into my akhirah. So it says that I may act righteously in what I have left behind. What's the answer? Kalla. Yeah, no way. You can't. إنها كلمة or إنه كلمة هو قائلها. This is just something this person is wishing for and saying. It's not going to happen. Sorry. وَمِنْ وَرَائِهِمْ بَرْزَخٌ إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. Barzakh. And before these people is going to be a barzakh until the day they are resurrected. And Allama Tabatabai says this verse shows us everyone has to go through the barzakh. That's just part of our growth, part of our journey, and us becoming who we really are going to be in the akhirah. And this is how, well, I'll talk about this later when we get to the questioning, actually. Let's leave that for now. So that's a verse that mentions and names barzakh. What about our hadith? I'll share one hadith, very famous, with you as well. That a person by the name of Amr bin Yazid, he tells Imam al-Sadiq, I heard you saying that all the Shia are in paradise regardless of what they've done. Imam al-Sadiq said, yeah, you heard right. By Allah, they're all in paradise. So we're like, okay, good. There is such a thing as free passes, huh? So Amr bin Yazid says, but may I be your sacrifice. Indeed, there are many sins and great sins out there that the Shia are performing. Yeah. And Imam al-Sadiq, he says, as for the hereafter, all of you will be in Jannah through the intercession of the obeyed Prophet or a successor of the Prophet. But by Allah, I fear for you of the barzakh. That's what I'm scared for you. Guys, don't be like, oh, so Jannah is taken care of in Yawm al-Qiyamah? All right, we'll be patient. We'll be patient in this barzakh and we'll go through the hardship and we'll get all the good stuff in the Yawm al-Qiyamah. No. When Imam al-Sadiq fears for something because he knows what it's all about, no one's supposed to say, oh, you know, we'll wait it out, we'll be patient in the barzakh and we'll make it in Yawm al-Qiyamah. No, don't do that. 1 second of barzakh, if the hadith says barzakh compared to dunya is like a whole desert and a speck of sand in it. This whole universe which constitutes the dunya, the material realm of existence, compared to barzakh is like a needle in a haystack, is like a speck of sand in the desert. How big is that and how small is that? Huh? And then someone's going to be like, oh, I'm cool with the barzakh, you know. No, let me see you hold your hand over a match for 3 seconds. If you can't, you ain't ready for barzakh. So barzakh here is, point being, barzakh is mentioned in this hadith, and we have other hadith, and it's one of those things that is widely accepted in Islam, Shi'i and Sunni, that there is a barzakh, yes, and in that barzakh things happen. So someone will say, okay, barzakh, and you're telling us that we have bodies, and we'll talk about the hadith that say that. So what is the address to this place? Probably the Bermuda Triangle. They say Bermuda Triangle is where Imam Zaman is. That's where the barzakh is. All the things that we have not figured out, it's in that triangle. But the truth of the matter is, the barzakh, in this same hadith that I just read to you, he asks the Imam. Amr bin Yazid says, what is the barzakh? Imam al-Sadiq says, the grave from death to the day of resurrection. So there is no location for it that you can, find. No. It is referring to another realm. It exists right now and it is encompassing us. A fish in water, if you ask it, mahidar ab, right? If you ask a fish that's in water, hey, what's water? He'll look at you like, what are you talking about? Because it's engulfed in water. We are engulfed in the barzakh. We don't know it. The barzakh encompasses us and we think we're kings of the world or something. Right? Little do we know that everyone else out there is just looking at us and feeling sorry for us because there's nothing going on here really. And so, if the barzakh is this great and it is beyond the material realm, there's no address for it as if, oh, that's where the souls are hanging out, Let's get to the hadiths now that talk about us having bodies. I have 3 hadith here that actually say that you do have a barzakhi body. Now someone might say, well, body means a physical body, right? No, it doesn't mean that. Allama Tabatabai makes this very clear. He says that in the barzakh you have bodies, but not bodies that are matterless, not made of matter. And so The same way you look in the mirror and you see yourself, but does that mirror, like I weigh 250 pounds or something? Does that mirror now weigh 250 pounds? No, but it's an image of me. Something like that, okay? Once again, we can't figure it out because we are down attached to this life. But in your dreams, that thing that's actually chasing you is they will tell you that's a mithali being, right? That you're dreaming about, or you're the person that you're seeing in your dream, okay? But doesn't mean that your head now weighs a lot, or your soul, I don't know, whatever. So there's something actually chasing you somewhere else. No. It's another realm. Okay. Having said that, let me read this hadith for you. That Imam al-Sadiq said, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the soul of the believer, He takes it to the gardens and gives it an appearance similar to the believer's own appearance. Oh. Imam al-Sadiq, alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts the souls of believers in bodies like their own bodies, it says here. Another hadith. The souls of the believers have characteristics of bodies in the barzakh. They have characteristics of bodies. So there is an appearance apparently. We don't have the senses to see those barzakhi bodies. But like, have you heard about some of these great urafa, some of these great scholars, some of these great ascetics that you hear their stories about how they had barzakhi sight or barzakhi vision, and no, it's not in any Marvel movies. Okay? It's an actual thing. That they see you, they can see people the way they really are. Their true color, what they are in the barzakh. Of course, they choose not to, yet it's there. And so, does that mean that as I walk as a human being, I'm also a pig? Yes and no. For one who can see, they might see a pig, they might see an animal, because that's how much I have trained myself. But for others, I'm a human being, all washed up, all prim and proper, wearing a nice suit and all that. There's more, the brother says there's more of these outlines in the back for those of you who need one. Okay. If that's what we're looking like in the barzakh, what is going on in the barzakh? I've left that for after questioning of the grave. I think I'll leave it for that. Let's leave it for that. All right, so that's this segment. About the barzakh itself, what it is. Why is it even necessary? What do we look like there? Yes, all of these things we have. The ones who believe in, for us, the 12er Shi'as, with the beliefs that we have, yeah? That the Holy Prophet, and then after him, Ali ibn Abi Talib, all the way to the 12th Imam. That's what the hadith is trying to say. But it's not a free pass, once again, brothers and sisters. Because when you do bad things here, you got to do something about it. We talked about this last night. Either the tawbah here, or not, Allah is going to lay you down and give you that injection that I gave the example of yesterday. We don't want that. That injection equals barzakh. That's what's happening in the barzakh. So, yes, the barzakh is a place where we are growing more into what we're supposed to grow into. But at the same time, stuff also happens there. One of the means by which we turn and transform into whatever we're supposed to transform into is adab. And so that's going to happen. I ain't interested. Right? All right, let's move on. Questioning of the grave, which comes with fishar al-qabr, pressure of the grave, the squeezing and all that we've heard about, which is true. But who does it apply to? That's the question. So we've all heard that when we die, and we have hadith for this, of course, that when the last footsteps are gone, people are leaving this grave now, and then night comes. Well, the hadith doesn't say night comes. It says when the last footsteps have left. Nahjul Balagha talks about these moments. These angels come, and they open up this person's shroud, and they say, Assalamu alaikum, where you been? And so the questioning begins. They're not going to waste any time. So what is asked, we've all heard. The kulliyat, the general things. Specifics are left for Yawm al-Qiyamah, because more growth happens in Yawm al-Qiyamah. But for now, all that is necessary apparently is general questions. Excuse me. Like, who is your Lord? What is your religion? What is your book? Who is your Imam? Was Shaykh Amin cool? Was he not cool? What did you, فيما أبليت شبابك? What did you use your youth, your younger years? What did you use that for? Your wealth, what did you spend it towards? And all that kind of stuff. These kulliyat, these general things are asked about. This is what is asked. Who is asked these questions? I'm going to keep it very short. There's difference of opinion here because we have different hadiths here. One set of hadith says everyone's going to be asked these questions. Everybody. Another set of hadith, which are more in number and more specific, and I think they're better all in all, from a hadith perspective. They say that only the ones who had the proper beliefs are going to be questioned, and the ones who had the improper beliefs, and it was their fault that they had improper beliefs. Man mahad al-iman wa man mahad al-kufr. These two are going to only be asked questions. The ones who had pure iman, they got it right when it came to beliefs. Their actions is a different story. Not necessarily they were perfect in their actions. They had the right beliefs, or they had proper kufr. Like this guy knew, he's looking at Rasulullah, he knows it's the truth, he doesn't embrace it. Okay? Well, there's stories, man. Some people are just losers. The guy during the Prophet's time, he says it too, like at least don't say it, man. Maybe there'll be some leniency towards you in the akhirah. But he says it, I know this guy is the truth. The Holy Prophet, but I got a drinking problem. And since drinking is haram in this faith, let me just drink a few more, then I'll embrace the faith. Right? And so he puts it off for a while. He dies before actually embracing the faith, man, this guy. So you lost your akhirah over a few drinks. But you already had drinks before. You know, some people are just blessed. You know, some of these converts, we ask them, or reverts, we ask them, like, so how does this fried chicken taste, you know? Or have you had that steak in that place and stuff? Like, what is it like, you know? So you had that opportunity, and now you embrace the faith. God gave you both. You know, I'm kidding a little bit here. Before you know it, people are going out saying, Shaykh Amin said that the fatwa of Maraja is all these things are halal. It's not the case. And so, Allah gave it to you, that opportunity. You just couldn't cut out a few drinks, man, and now that this is what you end up as. Some people are just losers. So, I'm sorry, I forgot what I was talking about. So we're talking about who is asked. Man mahad al-kufr, the losers who? They knew the truth, yet they turned away from it. Everyone in between, they're a third category. So there's two opinions, that people are of two categories. Another opinion is there are those who are of three categories. Some are the right path and wrong path. Some are pure right, pure wrong, and something in the middle. Okay? Each of these has a separate rule. So, what did the ulama say? Ulama Tabatabai is more inclined towards the three category one. That there's a lot of people in the middle that won't be questioned. Their questioning will wait for Yawm al-Qiyamah. Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli, student of Ulama Tabatabai on the other hand, he has a view that says, no, everyone's going to be questioned, but the degrees of questioning will be different for different people. What do I personally think? Although my opinion has no value whatsoever, but very humbly I feel that that set of hadith takes precedence. The one that says, no, the ones who have pure iman and the ones who have pure kufr will be asked questions. The rest will be left on their own. Well, what happens to them then? What happens to them? I'll just read one hadith to you. What happens to these people? It says, Imam al-Baqir was asked, or maybe I'll share two hadith. Those who are monotheists, they're muwahid, and believe in God and the prophethood of the Prophet, but are sinners, have no imam, don't acknowledge your wilayah. So he's talking about non-Shia Muslims. Those of us who say, oh, if you're non-Shia, you're doomed to and all that kind of stuff. What will their state be? Sometimes it's your fault you didn't acknowledge the imamah of an imam. Sometimes it's not your fault. It says, they will remain in the grave and will not leave if they have any good deeds and showed no animosity towards us, the Ahlul Bayt. An opening to a garden in the west will be made for them in the grave, which will blow a breeze from which will blow a breeze of happiness. Wow. Until the day of judgment arrives and they meet their Lord, they will then be held accountable for their good and bad deeds. All the particulars will be asked there. So if you were like, for example, Christian, and in your faith even it was wrong to do certain things, Allah's going to hold you accountable for that probably. Yeah? Another hadith, Imam al-Sadiq said, in the grave only those will be questioned who had pure belief, pure disbelief, and the rest will be left to themselves. So they're there. Maybe they might not know what's going on, but it's not that they're suffering. Right? So only the mu'mineen are there. The mu'mineen are the only ones who are saved. The rest are suffering. You're hearing them like, yeah, there you go. There you had in the dunya. I saw what you guys were doing. Take that now. No. A lot of people will be, left to themselves, it says. All right. But the big question is this. As kids growing up, we always, I know, don't say you weren't like this. I was like this too. We were growing up, we're like, as a matter of fact, just the other day, my daughter comes up to me. She's like 9 years old. It's like, Baba, question. And of course she's going to ask me, Shaykh, right? Sometimes these kids ask you questions that have nothing to do with being a Shaykh. And you're like, I don't know. They're like, but how? You're a Maulana. For them, Maulana equals Ma'soom, Mish Ma'soom. Anyway, so she asked me about this. Like, what are these questions that are going to be asked? And I know she's a smart little girl. So she's like probably trying to memorize those answers. Just the same way Baba was. I was the same when I was a kid. I was like, oh, those questions are easy. Alhamdulillah, let's go take care of business, man. Right? But no, you think that it's going to be that easy. It's not the case. The questioning in the grave is not like questioning here. So here, since we have 40 minutes, let me go a little deeper because this is important. It gives perspective. And I know some of you have been to this course before in your respective cities, so it'll be a good reminder for all of us. We have to understand, when the Quran says, وَجَاءَتْ سَكْرَةُ الْمَوْتِ بِالْحَقِّ, that death comes, and when it comes with haqq only. It didn't say haqq and batil mixed. It's all haqq after that. If it's all haqq after that, then, and everything's apparent, the truth in haqq is accessible to all. It's out there. Then if I'm going to be asking questions, or if I'm angels coming and asking questions, what's for sure is that I already know the answer to that question. Nothing's hidden. Everything is haqq. The questioning there isn't, the angels are like, okay, you know what? It's our shift. There's a few guys we have now. We got to go ask them, see what they're all about, who their Lord was and who their prophet was and all that. Let's go and ask them and see what's going on in their minds. And so after they ask the questions, if the person answers, they get it right, they're like, okay, he got it right, check mark, No, it's not like that. The questioning there is not like questioning here. Here you give tests so that people can gauge you, how good you are, how informed you are of the material, and how uninformed you are. Yeah? There it's not like that. There's no point in questions there, as a matter of fact. So the question is, why is that called questioning of the grave? Why are they actually asking questions then? And this is where, let me see if any of you can answer that who's been in the course before. What kind of questioning is this then? If it's not a normal questioning, what do we call it in Arabic? It is a Takuini questioning. Takuini questioning, not a tashri'i questioning. Here, everything is about learning, about, disclosing, revealing, and it happens through questions. We ask a question to see what the answer is, to know what the reality of things is. Over there, it's not like that. Over there, philosophy will talk about this, a hadith will talk about this. The person who's being questioned, when they say, "Mar Rabbuk," who is your Lord? They're not waiting for an answer. You might not even say anything. But what they are looking for is that they are actually bringing out that within you of Lord that you had planted in this life. That's what they're doing. Right? I'll explain. So the hadith, for example, that said, I fear for you for your barzakh, why is that the case? Because whatever we've planted within us in this life, yes, when the barzakh comes, they're going to bring it out. We planted seeds in this life through our actions. It's like these angels are coming, Mar Rabbuk. It's like they're pouring water on you now. Like, let me see who his Lord is. Yeah? Let me see what grows out of him or her. If what grows out of them is Allahu Rabbi, you got the answer. But if they pour that water on you, and what comes out is Fortnite Rabbi. Although that's not a thing anymore, I hear. It's not a thing, is it? Or is it? Now guys are talking about playing COD. It's like 30-year-olds still playing COD. Call of Duty. Yeah? And it's usually guys, it's not sisters, So that's why the guys get baligh a little later. So Allah knows what He's doing. Anyway, this person, throughout their life, if they've been following their nafs, who is their Lord actually then? The Lord is the one you listen to, right? Alright, so like if I've been listening to my nafs the whole life, whether it's halal stuff and haram stuff, then what's going to come out of me on that day when they ask me, oh, let's see who His Lord is. What's going to come out of me? Allah is not my Lord. That's why some hadith say this person had proper beliefs. He had or she had proper beliefs. Mahad al-iman. Yet because their actions weren't in line with that belief, this person for maybe 700 years will forget who was my Lord. Because they didn't plant it in them in this life. This is super important. Actions is what plants things within us. Philosophers will end up in Jahannam sometimes. But they might be able to prove God the best. Because it is actions that push us up and take our iman up. The Quran says this. إِلَيْهِ يَسْعَدُ الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ. Yes, there is a pure belief that you can have. And it goes towards the destination, which is Allah. But what raises this vessel? وَالْعَمَلُ الصَّالِحِ يَرْفَعُ. Good actions are what solidify this iman. Support it, push it forward, take it to the destination. So if this person, all their life, they've been doing haram, halal is okay. Video games, keep a balance of course, but it's okay. It's halal, it's not haram in and of itself. Unless playing it too much is not going to let you have a halal life in the future and a halal living. So you got to keep a balance. Be smart, guys. We're Shia. We've made it this far. Out of all the people of the world, we are people of faith. Out of all the people of faith, we're Muslim. Out of all the Muslims, we're Shia. Out of all the Shia, we're Ithna Ashari. We've made it this far. And then I'm like, okay, now let me play my video games 8 hours a day. Because why? One guy won a championship and he made like $2-3 million. That's one guy. That's not a way of making a halal living. All right? Anyway, keep a balance, guys. All right, so what we're talking about here is that these actions are what matter. Same thing, man nabiyuk, kitabuk, imamuk, all of these things, my actions are going to be speaking for me. So this questioning is a Takuini questioning. Takuini means that they're actually messing around with me when they're asking. They're like, when they're saying, man rabbuk, it's not like, hey, man rabbuk, we want to listen to your answer. They're like, man rabbuk, they're like opening you up. Like, let's see who his Lord is in his heart. They open it up, they see something else other than Allah there. Yeah? So this questioning, we can memorize the answers. It's not going to work on that side. We got to fix our actions. If we fix our actions, then we have what it takes to answer the questions. Yes. Someone might ask, that's not fair. People who were non-Muslim, yet it wasn't their fault that they were non-Muslim. They're going through nothing in the barzakh because there's no questioning for them, remember? Yet there are people who had the proper beliefs. Yes, they struggle in their actions, but they had the proper beliefs. But they are going to be questioned. That's not fair. Why did they have to go through trouble? Well, first of all, better sooner than later. Don't leave it for akhirah, one. But two, someone might say, there are some people whose actions were good. Why do they have to go through the suffering of questioning? Right? It's not fair. Answer that is given is this, that why do we think questioning of the grave is a bad thing? They are actually, it's the best thing you could ask for. Because you planted the seeds in this life. Now you got to start growing into what you need to grow to in the barzakh, so that you're ready for Yawm al-Qiyamah with your containers as it's pouring down barakah to collect as much of it as you can. We're getting ready for a big feast. Allah is giving us 100 stomachs so that we can eat, detach, put the next one in. Right? Some people have 10, some people have 100. Some like me have 100 in this life, you know what I'm saying? So, cardio just doesn't work sometimes as you get older. This gosh darn, what is it called? What is that called? When your metabolism drops, man. You breathe, you get fat. Anyway, let's not go on a tangent here. Barzakh is for us, whatever potential we've given ourselves in this life, whatever we've planted within our wujud in this life. The barzakh is what turns us into that thing that we're supposed to turn into, so we can take it all in on Yawmul Qiyamah. Here, after a few bites of, for example, ice cream, what happens to your tongue? Yeah, I'm pretty big on ice cream, so I'm an expert here. You take the first bite, second bite, 10th bite, 12th bite, the tongue starts going numb, and you're not really tasting it anymore. Sometimes I actually look at that tub that I'm eating from. I'm like, why am I not feeling the taste anymore? So I'll wait a little bit, let it warm up a little bit in my mouth, and then these are secrets of the trade, brothers and sisters. Okay, and so this is how this dunya is. And sometimes we compare things to this dunya. So we're like, you know what? This much is enough for me in the barzakh or yawmul qiyamah. I don't want more. I'm not interested in more. How do you know? A person who has done you're comparing it to here, that after the 12th bite, you can't feel it anymore. So it doesn't matter if I can eat a ton of ice cream. Who cares? Because I can't feel it. No. In akhirah, every bite tastes like the first bite. A person who did 1,000 salawat, for example, feels the difference than the one who did 999. We got to understand this. And that's why we go there, to grow enough to be able to take it all in. You can't take it all in here, but you can take it all in there. And so the barzakh gets us ready for all the good stuff that's going to come. So, if this is the case, it's not something to be put off. Questioning of the grave is not a bad thing. Oh, Shaykh, the ones who had proper beliefs, why? And they had proper actions, why do they have to suffer? Questioning is a blessing. They're going to come and bring it all out, whatever it is in there. Now, some people, unfortunately, they didn't have respect for themselves and didn't prepare for this moment. Others, though, they are ready for it, and that's why they don't want to wait. Yes, it might be a little uncomfortable in the beginning. I'll explain why. Look, you heard his question? Okay, so sometimes it's okay. I mean, if it's a byproduct of what I'm doing good, and I feel good about it. And one of the reasons why I like to do good for Allah is that I feel good about it too. That's fine. But if I'm doing it for the sole purpose of feeling good, then no, it won't count. Qurbatan ilallah has to happen, and it's not happening here. So I'll give you an example. A person who wants to make wudu, they'll tell you, if you're making wudu, but for the sole purpose of just cooling off in the heat of the summer, right? I just want to pour some water on my face and on my arms. Halfway through it, as I'm cooling off, I'm like, you know what? Let me just wipe the top of my head too. Let me wipe my feet too. Let's just have wudu too. No. You didn't start with this intention. So it doesn't count. You did it exactly like how you're supposed to do it. But that intention, because the only thing you had in mind was that, it doesn't count. Same. And if you do wudu to have wudu, and you're like, man, it's good too, it gives you a good feeling. That's not gonna render it problematic because you had this on the side that you liked of it as well. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, don't go too hard on yourself on these things. Yeah, when you're giving charity, you're doing it for Allah, right? It's not like you're like, I went to the therapist. They said one of the things of positivity you have to bring into your life is to make yourself feel good. So help people, and you're like, okay, I want to help myself. I want to feel better about myself. Here you go, sir. Have some money. And then when you look at yourself, you're like, there's no God in there. That's a problem. Usually that's not the case for us. Look, just the fact that you have this concern shows that you have the right intention, inshallah. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes people go a little overboard in trying to dissect their intention, right? And so they get worried, and then they'll ask about these things like this. I feel that, it's nothing, don't worry about it too much. Yes, if there's a person who's not a person of faith, but they are listening to that inner call within them that Allah has put in us to be good. Is that what you were talking about? Yeah. So these types of people, it's between them and their Lord, because at the end of the day, they are listening to that call within them that Allah put in them. Now, they're not a person of faith. That's between them and their Lord. Lots of people who are not people of faith, it's not their fault. I mean, look at the church and how it's been all throughout all these centuries, the Dark Ages, the Inquisition. And then you find people that have a problem with the hierarchy of the clergy in the Catholic Church, for example. I don't blame them. And then if this is the best faith that's out there, then of course Islam and these other religions, of course they're not the proper religion, right? Some people, that's what their reasoning is. But if they knew a religion was the right religion, they would embrace it. I think that would cut it for them and would be enough, since they haven't embraced it, but they have a reason for not embracing faith, yet they're still listening to that which God has put in them of fitrah, yeah, that Allah has put within us, yeah. But once again, we are not to judge. Allah is the one to judge. Don't worry about them too much, right? we're going to worry about ourselves. All we know is if anyone's going to worry about them, it'll be Allah first, before us even. That's how compassionate He is. Question. So if it's good for the ones who had a proper iman, if it's good for them, then why are the ones who are pure evil going to be questioned from there? That's the question, right? What good isn't it for them? Or what's the point of asking them? You're asking about the evil ones now, right? The ones with proper kufr, it seems, based on those hadiths that talk about easy death for evil people, that Allah will make sure that He compensates for whatever good they did in this life. Sometimes by repelling certain illnesses from them, their children even, things like that. But come barzakh time, barzakh is a place that Allah is not going to care anymore about what you did in this life. Apparently He's going to take care of all of it here. So when it comes time for that, it's all your beliefs now. It starts with the beliefs, then the actions come as well. If you had proper beliefs, let's ask Him questions. Because either they have the proper actions to go with the proper beliefs, well, then it's all good. You're growing into what you need to grow to. Or you don't have the proper actions to go with the proper beliefs, well, it's injection time. So that I don't have to worry about you in Yawmul Qiyamah. Were you here last night? Okay, injection time. Or if it's a person that has improper beliefs and it was their fault, okay, there's no hope for them anyway. It's all over. Start the adab from now. Okay? The ones who are in between, no. They are in the middle. Let them reach the Yawmul Qiyamah where specific questions are asked. There we'll ask them, okay, you were a Christian. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? You weren't Muslim. Why didn't you embrace Islam? Well, I didn't know. Well, there wasn't that one time where you felt to yourself, maybe I should look into this faith, but you didn't. Yeah, there was that moment. Okay, you're responsible that much at least. So the specifics are going to go for there. Yeah. But once again, this is one of those things that in the end, the details, I'm trying my best to answer based on the principles we got from these scholars. But in the end, sometimes just say we're not 100% sure exactly for every different person how it's going to be. Just like what Sister said, I just feel like, if I was to judge, okay, I would say that, well, first of all, is it their fault or not that they didn't have faith or adhere to an organized religion? If it wasn't their fault, the fact that they're listening to that inner call that Allah has put in them, that is beyond even being Muslim and all that kind of stuff, being good, then I think it should count. So it might be a place where certain mu'mineen who had bad actions will be purified. Yeah, definitely. But is it a place where we have the chance to do istighfar? No. Because even before that, the Quran told us, even before barzakh, the final moments don't even count, let alone in barzakh. You get what I'm saying? For some people, there will be adab as well because it's the injection that they need because they didn't take care of stuff in this life. And that's because Allah loves them that He's doing this. So in the barzakh, so that it doesn't carry on to Yawmul Qiyamah. Yes. So we have hadith for this as well. Someone asked an imam that there are some people who are crucified. They're up there. So this questioning or this pressure of the grave, how does it happen? And the imam answered, don't worry. The air around this person will squeeze the person if it needs to. So this is where there's a little difference of opinion amongst scholars. Some scholars say, we don't know. Maybe there's a physical questioning. Some hadith say you are sat up in your grave. These ulama say it might really be literal, that you are actually sat up in your grave. Other ulama like Allama Tabatabai, he says, no. All of these things that happen to an individual in the barzakh, it is made to seem to the soul that it's actually happening, but it's not happening to the physical body, no. Yeah. All right, let's move on a little bit. I know you have some questions. Let's see if we have time in the end. I just want to make sure we go through this. All right, so there's a story. I'm going to skip this actually, because just in interest of time. There is a story that I wanted to share with you of one of the cases where the questioning happened. It's interesting. You want me to read through it real quick or not? Of course, people love stories. Why is Shaykh talking so much? Read stories. All right, so this is Ayatollah Jamaluddin Gulpaigani. There's a couple pictures of him, black and white. One of the greatest, man, really. He has some interesting stories. Anyway, the story we have here is, he says, when I was young, and some of these ulama, they share their experiences. Other ones don't share their experiences. He's shared some of his experiences, and I'm narrating this from very reliable books that are out there by other scholars. He says, when I was young, one of the things I was involved in was spiritual wayfaring. Sayr and suluk, they call it. My teachers had told me, my ustaz had told me to go outside the city on Wednesday nights and Thursday nights and spend the nights in a specific graveyard in contemplation about the realm of the souls and death and in worship till morning and then return back to the city. Guys, this is not for you and I, right? You and I worry about the basics, inshallah. The wajib haram. What do we have for dinner tonight? What's dinner tonight? That's what we're going to worry about. The wajib and haram, Allah wants from us, we'll take care of that first, okay? Don't get too spiritual here, right? Spirituality is good, spiritual wayfaring is good, but lots of times you notice people, they miss out on the more important things, right? We have to learn that first, take care of that first. Anyway, this is for him. His teacher says, now's the time for you to do these things. So he goes, he says, one cold winter night when it was snowing, I left Isfahan for the graveyard and settled in one of its rooms. I wanted to have a light bite to eat, rest, and wake up in the middle of the night to carry out my spiritual practices, right? The door of the room was knocked and a corpse was brought in from the city. Its relatives left it there and asked the person in charge of the graveyard to recite Quran over it till morning when they would come to bury it. They left and the man began reciting Quran for this janazah. Right when I was going to begin eating, poor guy wants to start eating, look what happens. I noticed the angels of chastisement approach and begin tormenting. They would beat on his head with clubs of fire, such that flares would blaze up into the sky, with screams coming from the dead person so loud, it was as if the entire graveyard was shaken by the sound. The person reciting couldn't hear anything and just calmly went on with his recitation. This is a person who has a barzakhi vision that I was talking about, right? Some of them, they have this, and they don't get stuck here either. For us, we're like, oh my God, what a superpower. And that's all that matters. If a person ever finds themselves thinking about how cool this stuff is, they're not going to get it. It's only when your focus is Allah that these things might come. But the moment you pay attention to these things as if this is something important, khalas, finished. Everything's taken maybe. Yeah, it's crazy. It's cool stuff. The moment you think it's cool stuff, it's not going to come to you anymore. So we have to grow out of these things and come to the ultimate realization that the ultimate haqiqah and truth is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything else is just batil. By seeing this, I passed out. My body shook and I went very pale. I kept pointing to the reciter to open the door, like let me out. And he wouldn't understand me and I couldn't speak. It was as if my tongue was locked and I couldn't move. Eventually, I was able to convey to him to unlock the door for me to leave. He said, it's cold, there's snow everywhere. And there are wolves along the way. Think about it. You want wolves or you want these angels? They'll tear you to pieces. No matter how much I tried to get across to him that I can't stay. He wouldn't understand. I dragged myself to the door and he opened it and I exited. The way back to Isfahan wasn't too far away, but it was very hard to go. I hit the ground several times. I went to my room, was sick for a week. My ustads came and took care of me during that time period. And they would give me medicine and forcefully feed me kebab. Surprise, surprise. Until I slowly gained some strength. Someone force feed me kebab too, because I'm not interested. So he's weak, so he needs to be taken care of, you know. He needs to be nourished, and so they're force feeding him kebab, man. Where were we? Where are we now? I told the Banjat, there's this story of him I read. And he says that back in our day, before Fajr time, in the sahan of Ali ibn Abi Talib, over there, you know, the golden sahan that's there, as the doors were locked still before Fajr, you could count 50 people who were doing their Salat al-Layl, and in that last rak'ah of Salat al-Layl, which has the long qunut in it, you could count 50 people who were doing Dua Abu Hamza Thumali in their qunut of Salat al-Layl. That's where we were. Can't even talk about where we're at now. Okay, so this is a person who either had very bad actions, had proper beliefs, but had very bad actions, or didn't even have the proper beliefs. He probably had proper beliefs too, because they're reciting Quran over him. Probably he came from a religious family or something, but his actions were bad. Probably he had hurt others. Yeah? Do we have any Iranians here? Right now? No? Isfahaniyat chujuriyan migan. Qaziye pul wa ina, right? So he probably had cheated people when it came to money or stuff, right? I hope there's no Isfahanis here. And it's just, it's one of those city things I was talking about, right? Probably he had cheated people. Yeah, Haqqun Nas was on him somehow, maybe. Or other things. We don't know. We can't say. But what we can say probably is that he did have the proper beliefs. But man, does love hurt? When Allah doesn't want to leave it for Yawmul Qiyamah, it starts with the questioning right there. This guy has not put Rabb in his heart through his actions. When they ask him, Ma Rabbuk, he's just like stuck. What am I supposed to do? So now, I'm going to talk about what the brother mentioned. It might be an uncomfortable thing, even for the ones who are really good people. Proper belief, proper action. But the angels want to really get out that which is within them. This person has deeply rooted within them. So a little scare might be necessary. This is where hadiths, when you look at their wording, in Nahj al-Balagha, I think we have this. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It says, can't find it right now. But it says that for everybody, these angels, when they come, they might be frightening in the beginning. And then when you get the questions right, then all of a sudden they're good. There might be a little scare. Now, this is just an example. This is not a hadith. This is not something even scholars I've seen talk about. It's something that came to my mind. Why a little initial scare? A little discomfort, Because they want to get that which is deeply rooted within us, right? And I'll give you this example, okay? I always use this example wherever I teach this course. Now, let's say we're in this auditorium right now, right? And as we're speaking here, there's an exit over here. Yeah, we can see the exit doors here, right? And there's one exit door in the back. As we're talking and we have this class and session, a couple people run in from these doors with big guns and rifles. Allahu Akbar, surprise, surprise. Allahu Akbar, we thought it was over. It's still there. No, they're spraying bullets everywhere. Okay, I had to edit that part out of the video. just the Allahu Akbar part. And as they're spraying bullets everywhere, people aren't going to be thinking anymore. They're just going to be running towards that one exit over there. As they're running towards the exit over there, there's this guy, his name is Bilal Debeja. And he's holding the door shut. And he says, I'm going to unlock the door if you get my question right. What's 12 times 13? And so all of us, we can't answer in that moment. Bullets are being sprayed. Is this going to work anymore? No. It's whatever's become second nature and instilled in us is going to come out. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, I thought of that example. Only that was 12 times 13 is not too hard, is it? Because 12 times 12 is what? 144. Add 12 more to it, 156. But we can't even do that much math in that moment. Okay? You with me? But what if we start running towards the door and then he's holding the door and he wants to open it, but we have to answer his question first. He says, what's 2 plus 2? Are we going to get it wrong? Are we going to struggle? 2 plus 2 is something that is instilled within us. It's part of us. 2 plus 2 is 4. And so we'll say the answer because we have to think about it. Right? These angels, when they come, who is your Lord? I'm not going to have time to think. It's just going to come out whatever is within me. And so if my Lord was really my Lord in this life and my actions has put that in me, that's going to come out. Or else something else is going to come out. Or else I might forget for 700 years. And when I do forget, they're going to use their clubs to get that out of me. Right? So you can be a mu'min. And that's why I feel that Imam al-Sadiq said, I fear for your barzakh. You got to do the work somewhere. You didn't do it in this 50, 60, 70, 100 years. Or remember I said last night, 300 if you're Mawlana. Years that Allah gave you here. You didn't do it here. The barzakh is the time to do it, or else Yawmul Qiyamah is going to be the time. You don't want that. Okay? So this is the questioning of the grave. It's a blessing for those who get it right. And for those who don't get it right, it's still a blessing if they had proper beliefs. But for those who don't have proper beliefs even, the adab starts from there because there's no point in waiting anyway. Okay? Having said that, I want to, not conclude, but we're going to have to slowly conclude. But there are hadiths that tell us about what these people, these souls that have barzakhi bodies, they do in the barzakh now. You know, you watch those movies where like there's a couple people on a journey and in an adventure, and they stumble upon a new kingdom, and the camera like is zoomed out and it's showing like they see like trees and forests and dragons and waterfalls and princes and castles and all that kind of stuff, and then they walk into the forest and then the story begins. It's a new kingdom, that kind of thing. There's a lot going on. Same thing here. There's a lot going on in the barzakh. It is life. It is actual life. It is actually a higher level of life than we have here in this dunya. And so the hadiths tell us of socialization, hanging out, no argili, but hanging out and spending time, socializing, talking, asking questions, all that kind of stuff, and immeasurable pleasures that take place as a matter of the eating and drinking that happens there. I'll read you some of these hadiths before we end. We have 4 minutes till 4:30. It says, Abu Basir asked Imam al-Sadiq of the souls of the believers after death. The Imam replied, they are in rooms in the garden, eating from its food and drinking from its drink, saying, O Lord, bring forth the hour for us. If this is what we're having here, let's see what Yawm al-Qiyamah is all about. And fulfill your promises to us. Reunite us, the last of us, to the first of us. And then in another similar hadith, it says that the souls of the disbelievers are in rooms of fire, eating of the food and drinking of the drinks of the inhabitants of that fire. And so here, Allama Tabatabai makes this point, and other scholars I've heard mention this, that look, there as you're eating, you're taking pleasure because of your eating. At the same time, there's another deeper pleasure that's taking place, and that is every time you're eating, more and more veils are going aside from you. And you're getting closer to Allah, closer to the reality of Yawm al-Qiyamah. We're growing, right? Remember I said barzakh is necessary. So it's not just your taste buds, it's more than that. Imam al-Sadiq, indeed the believer visits his family, the sister who asked this question. He sees what makes him happy, and what saddens him is concealed from him. And indeed the disbeliever visits family and sees what saddens him, and what he likes to see is concealed from him. There are some souls who visit every Friday. There are some who visit according to the extent that their actions allow them. Man, everything is about the actions again. How Malakul Maut is, how the questioning is going to be, all that stuff, and even how much freedom we have there of flying around. Abu Basir said, that Imam al-Sadiq said, every believer and disbeliever visits his family every day at noon. When the believer sees his family doing righteous deeds, he thanks Allah for that. And when the disbeliever sees his family doing good deeds, he feels regret that he didn't do the same. So it's a punishment for that. Ishaq bin Ammar asks, in what form do they visit each other? The Imam answers, like a light bird who sits on the walls of their homes. If he sees them in righteousness and in a good state, he becomes happy, and the hadith goes on. It says, many hadiths speak of how the souls of the believers gather in a place called Wadi Salam. And this is not talking about the graveyard of Wadi Salam in Najaf. Wadi Salam means the land of peace, where it's all good happening there. That's where the good souls are. And when they get together, they're asking each other, oh, where's so-and-so? Where's so-and-so? Oh, he didn't make it. Oh my God. Yeah. And then there's another place called Wadi Barahut, where adab takes place for these disbelievers and the ones who are evil and all of that. They're taken there. And so, point being, brothers and sisters, it's a land in which, and it's a place in which we are still living just like this, you and I, right? We're living, we're socializing until the day of the trumpet comes and the trumpet is blown and we are all taken to Yawm al-Qiyamah. So going through all of this, brothers and sisters, I'm not going to be too worried if I didn't get certain things in life. I'm not going to worry too much if I'm angry at my husband or wife, mom and dad, I'm going to leave the house or something. Like, why? Because there's an end and we have so much more coming. I swear, I feel like these are things that can sometimes even save marriages, because the person is like, whoa, what are we fighting over? Like, I'll be the one who forgives you or whatever. It doesn't mean say it. He doesn't have to say it to that person. I forgive you. Like, whatever. Okay. You want to do it like this? We'll do it like this. Instead of us thinking that everything is in this life and like I have to make sure what I want goes and every bit of haqq that I have comes to me and all that kind of stuff. I think this can really help us in the grander scheme of things, even in this life. Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli, he says, death is that which gives hope to a person in this life. It's something to work for, something to look forward to. I thank all of you.